I've seen all this stuff. I want to make a video talking about the economy, talking about money, what money is. Basically, all these broke people, since that income tax season is coming, I might as well make this video because this seems like something that a lot of people don't understand. I have people kind of complaining about government spending, money, all this stuff, right? So first thing is that most of these people who have money, they don't even know how to use it. They don't know how to use it correctly because they don't even know what they have in their hands, right? Now, first thing first is we don't use money. This ain't money. This is not currency or whatever you want to call it. Currency is like how in ancient India they had rubies, or like how in ancient Mali Empire, the Mali Empire, how they had gold nuggets and stuff like that. Stuff of actual value that manifests itself on this earth. That's to a certain quantity that people wanted. Like how people got diamonds and gold and stuff. What we dealing with is something called a Federal Reserve Note. It's not called a dollar. It's not called bucks. All that extra shit is stupid. It's not money. It's called a Federal Reserve Note. It's a piece of paper. Now, a Federal Reserve Note, these things originated in the 1800s, right? Now, this was on a small scale. There was a guy who invented what he called a bank. And this was on the East Coast. And I forget what the name is, but he invented this bank. And when he invented the first bank, what it was people had these things called not Federal Reserve Notes, because this was before the federal government bank, which is the banks we got today that's owned by a lot of these people, like people in the 13 royal bloodlines and so forth, right? But this was the first bank, and this guy, he had it was obviously on paper, and what it looked like was it was green as well, but it didn't look like the models we got today, because the model that we got currently today is the 2013 series that was printed in 2013, right? So these dollars, or federal, or these reserve notes, or these notes, let me call it a note. These notes, the way it operate was his bank print a certain amount of this stuff. Now this was back during a time back when people had coins still, and people still using silver to buy land. I'm explaining to you also why that when you purchase land using reserve notes, you're not purchasing the land. Only when you use silver, like people did back in the day, right? And there was the note that he print a certain amount, and based off a certain amount, these people who have, I guess present day, what we would call accounts, right? But it's not really account like how we got accounts today. These people would get their notes, and they would use this at places that accepted this note that was in this area, right? Now, after whole thing was defunct, because I guess people was like, what's the point of doing this when we got coins and silver, right? And it's like you're borrowing paper to use it. It's just a borrowing and a lending system. You're not really buying anything, you're lending, right? With this reserve, now the Federal Reserve Note came about. I think it was in the early 1900s or late 1800s. I mean, it might have been the 1700s when that actually happened, right? But point is that it was before this 1900s time, 2000, which is this current era we live in America. Now, the Federal Reserve Note, now this was opened by basically the people today that own the banks. They are ancestors, I guess you could say, right? Because they descend from these same people. And this Federal Reserve Note was on a large American government scale, to where is that, and this is in the early 1900s, and these versions had a couple of presidents that we don't really account for today, right? Now, we already know the $1. We got George Washington, we got Benjamin Franklin, we got I think it's $1,000 bill, which a lot of people don't see no $1,000 bill. There's even a $2 bill, and so forth, right? So you got the $1 bill. Pardon me, they call it a dollar bill. It's the Federal Reserve Note. It's what's called a bill. You got the $1 bill. You have the $2 bill. You have the $5 bill. You have the $10 bill. The $20 bill. It's 50, right? It might be a 50. 50, 50, 100, 1,000, so forth. I think you can go all the way. I think about 10,000, or is it 20,000? Right? Now, when you're dealing with these Federal Reserve Notes, it was on a large scale, but you had certain banks owned by certain people. Now, they got it all blocked out with now with this whole corporate banks thing, where you got TD Banks and Bank of America. Let me tell y'all right now, there ain't no such thing as no TD banks, sovereign bank, Bank of America, all that stuff. This bank stuff is connected to the government and connected to a line of families. These corporations and or these companies, I should say, it's not a company thing. This is just shit. This is just these people operating these companies. Like, it be 3 different types of banks: the TD Bank, Bank of America, and all that stuff. It's all coming to the same people. Right now, we ain't talking about MasterCard and Visa. I'm talking about Federal Reserve notes. So this is not talking about like currency online, right? Like how you have an account balance. I'm talking about like bank, right? That's bank, meaning not ATM and not people going into the bank with a card. And I'm not talking an account like today. I'm talking about the government printing money, and there's different, like I said, the different series is right now we at 2013. I'm talking about the government printing these dollar bills, right? And the certain amount is going to these banks, and these banks are connected to and ran by these families, like these 13 royal bloodlines. And how is that all these people have all the money? When people talk about the bankers, right? I'm not talking about people taking off money and stuff. So the first series, I think they had 3 different series throughout the whole 1900s, and they didn't look that much different. But most of the improvements that was done for each series of these reserve notes was to prevent people from basically making it harder to copy, right? Like how people print fake money and all of that stuff. Like the present day, it had a whole bunch of stuff on it, and you see like a lot of these yellow numbers and all that stuff, and then you even have like a blue strip on one of them, things like that basically make it harder and harder to copy, but they add a little extra stuff, right? The $20 bill, right? Now, I'm trying to focus on this. What was it focusing? That should not focus at all. Alright. It says, United States of, it says $20. Federal Reserve note, United States of America. It has 20 on it and it has a seal. It says MC789457554C, which is the number specific for this specific bill, right? It says $20. It got Andrew Jackson on the cover of it. The Secretary of Treasury is what we're talking about. Now that's also another thing connected to. So when we're talking about the government, Secretary of Treasury, it has signature, Treasury United States signature. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. United States Federal Reserve System, right? Series 2013. On the back says United States of America. In God we trust. The White House. And you see a bunch of these little yellow 20s. If you can see, right? Series 2013. This is what I was talking about, right? Now, all of that stuff on it, like I said, this present day series, 2013 Federal Reserve Note Series, that is just so it's harder to copy. And this is a Federal Reserve Note. It's letting you know that this is being lended to you and this is being used in a system that only works in this system, in this country, because it's a bank system, and then you're dealing with the Department of Treasury. And all of these things are connected to the people that descend from the people that started the federal level banks. And these people is the people that own multiple of these banks, like TD Bank and all this different stuff, right? Like I said, we ain't talking about the debit card or the credit card aspect. We're just talking about Federal Reserve notes. So why is all of this stuff important, right? When you realize that this is not money, it's not currency, you are lending this stuff. This is like a debt. A debt is what happens when you have a certain amount of these Federal Reserve notes in a bank. When they start giving it out to the people, it has to come back there. This is how spending money. It's not really spending in the sense of you have this currency, you're rich. You don't own that money, right? Because it's not money. The people that own these things, it's like, this is why there's inflation. You got a set of something and you giving it to these people and it's supposed to come back, right? No, so what I'm trying to say this for is because the way that the majority of people spend these Federal Reserve notes, it rarely, the way that these idiots, it's really like a debt. Because all of this money ends up coming right back to the people that printed it. Because the people that printed it is making their own shit that they printed. When you people going out and people buying, people aren't accumulating their own notes. People don't invest in stock. People don't do things like people don't start their own businesses and have them ran by them like family owned businesses. Then people talk about black owned businesses. What you got these people doing is these people are working, then they get in money and they spend it on all type of bullshit, these companies and these corporations, right? And when you working, you gotta pay, it takes a certain amount of tax out. So you paying taxes. And then this same amount of money, these taxes, the tax money or what you want to call it, this is coming right back to these people to collect on this tax money to spend it on the same things with the same corporations. All of this tax money now is going to end up with the tax money. People got better income tax. All this stuff is going to go right back into the hands of these corporations, which operate off of these banks. Because when you're dealing with any corporation or company, there's always a connection to banks. Right? You will always find a connection to banks with anybody that got Federal Reserve notes. Even a citizen. Right? So what I'm trying to say is when people are spending this money and people talk about being rich and they think they big rolling and all type of shit, and people buying all these cars and people with all of these all of this debt that they in. You're in debt because you got a Federal Reserve note. This shit right here ain't currency. This puts me in debt just by having this. Why? Because this ain't mine, nigga. This shit come from the bank and the people that printed it. Series 2013 MC789457554C. And this shit gotta get back to them. As long as I'm ignorant and as long as I'm a citizen and I'm looking at this thing as money, subconsciously and unwillingly, it's gonna go right back to them. And not only is it gonna go right back to them, I'm gonna find myself without any of these Federal Reserve notes. And in order to get these Federal Reserve notes, I gotta go and slave for the corporation so the corporation can make more Federal Reserve notes. And they can take out my tax. And then, as a dumbass, next year, then you're gonna collect on that and give it right back to the same corporations that you slaving away for. Right? This is why people say invest. This is why people say buy silver and so forth. And all that Bitcoin stuff, well, that only gonna dig you in a deeper hole. Having a debit card now, that's even gonna dig you in deeper debt because the banks, they take out money out of people's debit card whenever they want. This is something that a lot of people. This is something that a lot of people don't know. People be like, wait a minute, did I have more money on my shit? And then they got a thing, and the reason and how they do this now is like when you got a certain amount of money on a debit card, you can only take a certain amount off. You got available balance. Nigga, fuck you mean available balance? I just went to, you go to the bank and you put a bunch of these Federal Reserve notes in their system in your account or on your debit card. You put $80 on. You can only access 55. What? So that's what I'm trying to say. When you got that type of stuff going on now with the debit card, right? And Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin stupid? Because if the server of the Bitcoin site go down, your shit gone. Right? And by go down, I don't mean under maintenance. If somebody go, if the Bitcoin server for the Bitcoin site, or even Swag Bucks, right? Or even if you got money on Pop Tropica, if something happened and the building blow up, and Bitcoin is not really offline, but that shit, Bitcoin basically got fucked up, and they gotta recreate the site and go back into the script and all that, your money is gone, nigga. All that digital currency is gone. And then they get the debit card. So it's any type of currency you got that ain't actual like silver, or if you got gold, or if you got rubies or whatever. This whole dollar system, it's like nigga, it's like having money but not having money. You got somebody printing some shit, giving it to the banks. The banks and all corporations connect to these same people. And if you an idiot, they gonna get their shit back. So when people talking about black people, we don't own these, white people, first of all, white people don't own shit, right? You mean the people that own this, let me go back right here, United States Federal Reserve System. You mean the people that own the banks? That's this theirs. It's theirs. It's not mine. And when you realize it ain't yours, you can accumulate more. Because when you start using it smart, the first step now, if you was to ask me to give some advice on how you can get out of debt or be in less debt, because you're going to be in debt anytime that you got a Federal Reserve note. Don't buy Bitcoin and don't ever fuck with nothing like that. That's the first thing, right? Second thing, do not buy them what's that? Buy them money bands to put money in. Don't worry, nobody gonna rob you unless that you know you're gonna already get robbed. Don't tell people, hey, I got I got $1,000 rolled up at home in a rubber band. Don't tell nobody that shit. But don't refrain as much as you can, unless you got like internet services. Refrain as much as you can from putting any of these Federal Reserve notes into your bank account or on a debit card. Trust me, you are going to save so much money. Cause them little bit I mean motherfuckers do all type of shit. Like even app stores take out like what, $1. All that little stuff is are you already in debt just by having this Federal Reserve note? All of that little stuff is gonna go a long way. Refrain from putting your money in a debit card. I ain't talking about credit cards. That's something completely different. Refrain from putting your money on a debit card. And if you're talking about basic debt, I mean basic debt is easy. Refrain from paying anything monthly, like paying for paying for a car monthly, anything. If you absolutely need to, make sure there ain't a whole bunch of money. Refrain from that type of stuff and paying a certain amount of mortgage and a certain amount of this, and every month you gotta pay that, and you got, because all of them bills, all that stuff adds up. Even when you got cable bill, oh, they do whatever they want. You watch your TV. Even your phone bill, right? One month is something, the next month is something else. Wi-Fi, I mean every single thing. So what you gotta do is you gotta refrain from having your money in this bank system as just numbers, numerical value, or in a card, to where is that anybody could just pick at your shit. People can scam you and they can take all the money off your cup. So you gotta refrain from using that shit, and you gotta refrain from using things like Bitcoin, right? And you just have a whole bunch of 20s at home. You don't put it in your wallet, but make sure that you keep all of this shit rolled up. Right? Bunch of 5s, bunch of 20s, a bunch of 100s, and anything you gotta spend. Anytime you gotta go and be like, oh, I need to do this, I gotta put a certain amount of money on my card, put that on. Don't put extra. You see what I'm saying? Even with food, even if you gotta refrain from using certain things and use card, they refrain from stuff like that. That's the only way that people are gonna be able to basically not be broke as fuck and not have nothing and all sad and depressed because they can't figure out why they ain't got no money. It ain't about your job. It is not about your job. You just gotta understand the tax they taking out from your job. That's a lot. You be making, you could have made $2,200. When they take the tax out, you making $1,600 that month. A whole bunch of shit that you gotta go into and pay attention. But this is not money. It's not currency. It's Federal Reserve notes. Then when it's in the bank system, it's numbers. Those numbers could go down because niggas could take whatever the fuck they want out. Right? And don't fuck with Bitcoin, because if that website disappears, your money gonna disappear. Right? Federal Reserve notes.